Developing right now on Morning News Now, an intensifying fight in the Middle East. Overnight, the U.S. completing a 12th straight day of strikes against Iran, just hours after President Trump attended the dignified transfer ceremony honoring 4 American soldiers killed in the war last week.
They are indeed great heroes, actually. They said, and all of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. So we're going to honor them.
Plus, the U.S. signing a landmark nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia. We'll bring you the latest from Washington. Also developing emergency in the south this morning. Tropical Storm Bertha battering the Gulf Coast with heavy rain, powerful wind and flash flooding. Angie is here tracking its path. We'll tell you the areas most at risk. Plus, under review, the FDA set to evaluate more than half a dozen peptides as the popularity of and claims about the substances grow. More on the meeting set to start today, what the outcome could mean for the pharmaceutical industry. And lay blunder this morning, basketball fans buzzing over an accidental post by the Miami Heat that suggests LeBron James could be taking his talents back to South Beach. What the team is now saying as we await Decision 2.0 and how the NBA icon's next move will impact the entire league. What a way to spark some speculation.
No kidding. It could go one way or the other, but he's always good at building suspense over where he's going to play. So we'll wait and see. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this hour with the latest in the U.S.-Iran war. Overnight, the U.S. carried out its 12th night in a row of strikes on Iran, killing at least 2 people, according to Iranian officials. Iran says it hit back by targeting U.S. bases in Kuwait.
These retaliatory strikes come as President Trump attempts to juggle the war with the upcoming midterm elections. In Georgia, the president delivered a rally-style speech, while earlier in the day, he was at Dover Air Force Base for the dignified transfer of 4 U.S. service members killed in action. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with more on all this. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. President Trump has said that he won't let political calculations affect his decisions about the war, as he has now faced its human toll, saying before meeting the families of the fallen that he could tell them only that the nation loves their children, a nation now in mourning for 4 young lives lost. President Trump coming face-to-face with the war's costs at the dignified transfer ceremony Wednesday, honoring 4 fallen soldiers as they return to American soil, all killed in the Iran war in the last week.
It's one of the hardest things to do as a president, but has to be done.
The president met with the families of Sergeant Angel Rampersad, Private First Class Isabella Gonzalez, Captain Tyler James Feehan, and Staff Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton. He was killed in an Iranian drone incident in Iraq. The 3 others killed when Iran struck their base in Jordan. Sergeant Rampersad's family focused on how she lived.
She stood up for those who couldn't fight for themselves, a defender and a friend.
Captain Feehan's parents flew home to Georgia on board Air Force One, and President Trump acknowledged them at a rally there.
He was a person that was going all the way. We will carry Tyler's memory in our hearts forever.
While saying Iran isn't ready yet to make a deal.
Because every time they make a deal, they want to change it.
Overnight, U.S. forces launched a 12th straight night of strikes against Iran after the president made a new threat to bomb and destroy a bridge or power plant anytime Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. While in swing state Georgia, he zeroed in on key midterm races, as some Republicans are voicing concerns that the war may hurt the party at the polls, with gas prices again pushing higher.
I think by any objective measure, we're worse off than we were before the war.
President Trump insists Iran is weaker and America safer as the nation mourns those who've paid the price. And the U.S. has now signed a landmark nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia that a senior administration official told NBC News supports the Saudis creating a civilian nuclear power program built by American companies. Critics, though, fear it could touch off a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. would not agree to anything that would let that happen. Joe and Savannah.
Alice, we also heard from that one Republican senator in your piece there who is worried about the impact of the war on the midterm elections. Is Congress taking any more action to try and rein in the war?
Yeah, as we've seen the fighting only growing, we have heard more noise on Capitol Hill about trying to get this ramped back down. House Democrats are set to vote on another war powers resolution today, trying to constrain the president's powers to wage war in Iran. And the Senate's top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, now says he's going to lead Senate Democrats in forcing their own similar vote tomorrow. You may remember President Trump has cracked down on Senate Republicans in the past who've bucked him on this issue, and we could see another showdown there again.
All right, Alice in Washington, thank you.
Let's talk more about that U.S.-Saudi nuclear deal that Alice just mentioned with Nicole Grajewski. She's an assistant professor at Science Post Center for International Research and an associate fellow at the French Institute of International Relations. Thank you very much for joining us. So Saudi Arabia has long wanted to pursue nuclear technology as a way of reducing its reliance on fossil fuels. They'd previously said they would look to China or Russia if the U.S. did not partner with them on this. Was this a case of the U.S. trying to get in ahead of those adversaries?
Well, it certainly seems like this was an effort for the U.S. to at least outpace Russia and China in terms of civilian nuclear cooperation with Saudi Arabia. This deal does stipulate kind of the U.S. privileged role in this. And in certain companies, such as Westinghouse, have expressed their desire to be involved in this. So on one hand, this is the U.S. trying to assert commercial dominance in the civilian nuclear energy sector, especially when it comes to Saudi Arabia, given both Russia and China's interest in cooperation there.
So, Nicole, I mean, critics say this could put the Saudis on a path to a nuclear weapon. It could fuel an arms race in the region. Are you surprised the U.S. is announcing this deal in the middle of the war with Iran, given the goal of the fighting is to try and stop Tehran from getting a nuclear weapon? I mean, could this actually provoke Iran into trying to pursue a weapon?
Yes, certainly. There's a certain degree of irony here because part of the stipulation in this agreement includes the potential right for Saudi Arabia to enrich on their own territory. Notably, this is what Trump has declared as a non-starter for negotiations with Iran. So there's that irony there. Additionally, Saudi Arabia has been quite disillusioned with the current U.S. war in the sense that Saudi has been targeted themselves from the Iranians. So to some extent, this also looks like an effort to quell concerns in Saudi when it comes to the U.S.-Saudi relationship.
Nicole, this deal isn't likely to include the most rigorous levels of inspections by the UN nuclear watchdog. That's the IAEA. Why is that, and what does that tell us?
It's unclear why the Trump administration dropped some of the oversight when it comes to the IAEA or the UN nuclear watchdog. But what it does tell us is that there's far less stringent non-proliferation controls on this. It really seems to be mostly a U.S.-Saudi deal. And this is a departure from the so-called gold standard that the U.S. has dealt with in the past when it does sign agreements like this. So if anything, it's a little bit troubling when we think about broader non-proliferation goals.
All right, Nicole Grajewski, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
In news from Capitol Hill, House Republicans adopted a $95 billion budget proposal yesterday. It's a way to fund the Iran war and some other White House priorities.
Meanwhile, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan formally requested the Justice Department open a criminal investigation of former special counsel Jack Smith, who oversaw the probe into President Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results.
Let's bring in NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. Joins us with more on these headlines. Gary, good morning. So first of all, just what's all in this $95 billion spending package, and does it stand any chance of passing in the Senate?
So this was a package that was passed with only Republican House support. We're talking about $73 billion in military aid, $60 billion going towards the Pentagon, $13 billion going towards intelligence operations, most of that money heading towards the war with Iran and being supportive of what's happening with the war with Iran. It's also going to help farmers here. We're talking about $12 billion that's going to go towards farming and assistance for the farmers that have been really hurt across the country by some of the tariffs that have been imposed on the United States because of the wars that we've seen around the world. And then $10 billion towards election security. And that's crucial here because this is going to get paired with the Save America Act when it heads over to the Senate. And that is that radioactive bill that has been really had no chance of passing through the Senate because of some of the election measures and voting requirement measures that are involved in that legislation, guys.
Gary, what can you tell us about this letter that Jim Jordan sent to the DOJ asking for this criminal investigation of former special counsel Jack Smith? What's he alleging and what's prompting this now?
So what's happening here by Congressman Jim Jordan is a little bit of selective listing of the facts here. So I want to be super clear about what's happening. During his investigation of Donald Trump, special counsel Jack Smith subpoenaed phone companies for the toll records of members of Congress. So that means who called who when, who texted who when, how long they were on the phone for. It does not include actual messages. It does not include any audio of the actual conversations themselves. Separately, Jack Smith also subpoenaed Trump allies for their actual phone records, which would include the messages, which would include the audio of the phone calls. And on those records, subpoenaed from the National Archives, were members of Congress's messages. Think Peter Navarro or Rudy Giuliani having conversations with members of Congress. That's where those came into play here. Congressman Jim Jordan says that he's going to investigate some lying to Congress by Jack Smith because of that issue. And Jack Smith has long said he does expect to be indicted and get in trouble by this Department of Justice.
Gary, one more headline to get to. The Secret Service says that threats against the people that it's responsible for protecting have jumped. What more can you tell us about this? And are there any concerns about the White House Correspondents Association dinner now scheduled for Friday? Of course, we remember the first attempt was disrupted by violence.
Yeah, the United States Secret Service has said they have been tracking 10,000 threats against the people that they protect. Of course, they protect dozens of people across the federal government. Just this year alone, that's a 40% jump from last year. Secret Service Director Sean Curran told our Kelly O'Donnell yesterday during a briefing they're deploying more resources to make sure that wherever the president goes, he is kept safe, his family and the members of the cabinet are kept safe. That includes this Friday's redo of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's going to be held here in D.C. at a different hotel than it was held earlier this year. It's going to be a little bit of a safer location, and there's going to be significantly more security resources put towards this event to ensure nothing like what happened last time happens again, guys.
All right. Gary Grumbach, a lot to cover this morning. Thank you.
Well, Tropical Storm Bertha continues to batter the Gulf Coast, making landfall in southern Louisiana about 40 miles east of New Orleans.
At landfall, Bertha's maximum sustained winds were around 45 miles an hour. The worst of the rains did stay offshore. That kept the storm from doing any widespread damage.
NBC News correspondent George Solis has been tracking the storm. He joins us now from New Orleans with the latest. George, good morning. So tell us, what have you seen from Bertha? What kind of impact?
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Fortunately, the impacts were minimal. As we forecasted, much of this heavy rain stayed off into the Gulf. However, we did spend some time along some of the coastal communities where we did see some of the heavier rain, some of those stronger gusts, about 40 mile an hour. And it was really intermittent. It was really more of an inconvenience for a lot of residents. Still, officials urged the public to take every necessary precaution. We didn't see a lot of people out on the streets yesterday. A lot of people seemed to shelter in place, which was certainly the right thing to do. But of course, Bertha did have an impact across the Gulf Coast in places like Dauphin Island, Alabama. We saw some vehicles that were covered in sand in Biloxi, Mississippi. Some businesses trying to get out of harm's way. And in Venice, Louisiana here, we saw some people, of course, preparing. We saw some fishermen trying to get some stuff out of their boats. But a lot of people saying they knew this storm wasn't necessarily going to be the heavy hitter, so to speak. But folks in and around, of course, New Orleans are no strangers to severe weather. So they know when something is serious, they want to take every necessary precaution. So we saw in the days leading up to Bertha, people taking all the necessary precautions, from getting their supplies to packing up sandbags to fortify their homes should the flooding get severe. But again, we saw some rain, some wind, and some localized flooding, and even this morning a rain shower or two. But the storm continues moving west. It's supposed to weaken as it makes a second landfall. But again, I got to tell you, a lot of residents here just grateful this was not more severe, guys.
All right, George, thank you so much.
And we are keeping an eye on the track of Tropical Storm Bertha, so let's get all the latest details with your Morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman joins us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi there, guys. Good morning to you. George said it. We've got still to keep an eye on this system. Tropical Storm Bertha. Here's the latest details. Winds at 45 miles per hour, moving at a bit of a quicker pace of 13 miles per hour to the west. Still about 90 plus miles from Lake Charles. That's something that you'll notice here today, kind of that number winding down as the system gets closer to that second landfall that George mentioned. likely to happen as we get into the evening hours, but still those tropical storm warnings are up across parts of Louisiana and stretching into Texas. We're going to see some, again, same kind of impacts. Not a whole lot of rain, some gusty winds, and those are going to kind of sum up what we'll have for the next 24 hours or so as this system gets closer to land yet again. You can see taking it somewhere right along the coast of Galveston as we get into the evening hours or so tonight, and then eventually weakening as it moves across southern Texas by Friday through the day. Here's the wind gust. Not all that impressive if you go farther from the coast, but closer to the coast, places like Galveston, you can see a peak wind gust of 44 miles per hour as we get through the day today. And some additional rain, again, especially as that system works west after the landfall, maybe picking up a couple of inches just south of Corpus Christi and stretching to that Texas-Mexico border. Otherwise, we've got a whole lot of rain to talk about across the Carolinas and parts of the mid-Atlantic. This is just going to be kind of hanging around as this system sticks with us. So no surprise that we've got flooding concerns. The flood watches are up from the coast, stretching back to Chattanooga, just to the north of Atlanta. You've got Charlotte, Raleigh, Cape Hatteras included in that, as well as Wilmington, as this kind of stream of rain continues through the day today and potentially kind of winding down into tomorrow. But the stationary front will still stick with us even into the afternoon hours today. So watch for that heavy rainfall. We'll still see kind of the problematic aspects of the flooding even as we get into tomorrow in some spots, because we've got these scattered storms kind of developing right as that stationary front kind of hangs around. Either way, the upside of this, the optimism in me, is looking at how much of an impact this is going to make on the drought across the southeast. So that is at least one aspect of this. We've got anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe up to 4 and even 5 inches possible, specifically across parts of North Carolina. That's where you'll see the highest amounts and closer to the coast, with these showers sticking around through the day again today. Otherwise, really warm temperatures in a lot of spots. We've got 50 million people across the South, across the Southwest, parts of the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies included in those heat alerts as temperatures gear up to be well above normal yet again. Look at those high 90s across parts of the Northern Plains as we get into tomorrow. If you're looking for the nice conditions, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, really nice kind of temperate, low humidity in some spots as we get through Friday. And looking ahead to your Saturday, another nice day in that same region. But we will be flirting with those record highs across the middle of the country and still dealing with that flood threat across the southeast. And that heat wave continues, unfortunately, for Sunday. If you're looking for some cooler air across the middle of the country, you're just not going to get it. But plenty of sunshine for our friends across the west, guys.
Well, good for them. Angie Lassen, thank you so much.
A trial date for ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores has now been set for June 1st of next year. The former leader and his wife are facing drug trafficking charges. Both have pleaded not guilty. The pair were captured in Caracas back in January by U.S. forces. Both appeared in court yesterday for a hearing to set the trial dates. Defense lawyers say they will attempt to get the case dismissed, arguing on the grounds of Maduro's immunity as a head of state.
An independent autopsy report is providing more questions than answers in the death of Mississippi teenager Nolan Wells. The report was released yesterday after the 18-year-old was found dead following a 4th of July boat trip. It revealed an inconclusive cause of death pending investigation. The family's attorney says the forensic pathologist they hired could not rule out foul play. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist has the latest.
Newly released autopsy results are raising more questions about how Nolan Wells died. An independent exam commissioned by his family's legal team classified the cause and manner of death for the 18-year-old as undetermined pending investigation.
He's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant.
The forensic pathologist wrote there were no fractures, cuts, or bruises on Nolan's body, but noted red discoloration was found on the back of his head and needs more investigation. The autopsy was performed 4 days after his body was found. The pathologist also writing there were missing parts of the neck.
Have you or he asked anyone for access to those things?
Hopefully that the medical examiner will allow him to come and examine the throat, also to talk about observations that they had, and so they could share information.
It is not unusual for a state medical examiner to keep parts for further evaluation. Former medical examiner Dr. Priya Banerjee reviewed the autopsy report.
I think the best thing we can take away is that there's no identifiable trauma.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is still investigating what happened after Nolan went to Horn Island in a boat with friends on July 4th. His body was found 2 days later washed ashore there. The family's attorney noted the doctor was unable to examine the airways and lungs for water to determine drowning. In a recent interview, Warren Hudson says he'd been friends with Nolan since they were kids. Hudson said they frequently went boating, and they went to Horn Island with a large group of friends on July 4th.
Everybody's drinking, you know, I mean, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves.
The family's legal team is waiting for the state to finish its toxicology report. At the same time, the state medical examiner's office telling NBC News that it will share appropriate information when the investigation is complete.
All right.
Back to you.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. We're joined now by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas to break down the latest in this investigation. Danny, good morning. So the independent autopsy was performed July 10th, and that was 4 days after Nolan Wall's body was found. The state conducted its initial autopsy on July 7th. So why would the medical examiner's office hold off on releasing any kind of results? So the idea here being that it essentially happened prior, and yet we still don't have any information from that one. The one that was performed later, we do.
The autopsy is not the report. The autopsy takes a day. The report takes a lot longer. And the holdup is and was probably toxicology. It's going to be critical here because drowning really doesn't have a lot of medical indicators. So you're going to have to take a look at toxicology. And depending on what kind of rush or how backed up a lab is, that can take a long time. You're looking at some of the typical drawings and information you see on a report there on the screen. And keep in mind also that you have a crime scene here where the body was in the water. The crime scene is the water. It's about the worst crime scene that you could ask for. And there could be damage to the body that occurred post-mortem accident damage that happened causing injuries. And those have to be figured out as well.
Danny, what's specifically standing out to you in this investigation right now?
One thing I think that investigators find challenging is that you have some 300 witnesses, people who were at this party, many of whom were probably, well, let's just say compromised or intoxicated. Maybe not, but their memory may not be so great. So you have to get through all of those witnesses. You have a very difficult crime scene, a deserted island and the ocean. Terrible place to do an investigation. Those are going to make really these determinations very, very difficult. Now, at the end of the day, no evidence of foul play is no evidence of foul play. You can take that as either no evidence yet or no evidence ever.
So, Danny, that's interesting because you're saying you're referencing the local investigators saying they have not found signs of foul play. But what I just mentioned a moment ago here spikes my interest. The forensic pathologist that was hired by the Wells family allegedly said he couldn't rule it out either. I think to your point, that still means it hasn't been found. It just can't be ruled out. But what evidence do officials need to declare someone's death a homicide, to determine that there was foul play?
Well, when you declare someone's death a homicide, that's a medical opinion. It's not a criminal charge. The manner of death falls into 5 categories. You have homicide, you have accident, you have suicide, you can have undetermined. And those are really just checking a box by the medical examiner. And by the way, sometimes the medical examiner reaches a different conclusion than prosecutors, and defense attorneys have a field day with that. But that is not the final say determining the manner of death. They will also determine the cause of death, which is more of a medical cause of death rather than homicide, suicide, accident, or something else. So those are the distinctions there. But that finding by the medical examiner is not an indictment by itself.
Danny, from a process standpoint, how long do you see the local sheriff's office taking to finish its investigation? And then what happens after that, especially with this sort of parallel information that the family's gathering?
Normally, it would take a long time. And now, because of the intense pressure and scrutiny of this case, it's going to take a longer time. It's human nature. These are investigators who probably this is the biggest case of their lives. They know they're being scrutinized, so they're going to be extra careful, especially given the fact that early on, critics have pointed to the fact that they said there's no evidence of foul play. And so a lot of critics say they rushed to conclusions that their investigation led them towards simply an accidental drowning. And by the way, all we have so far still indicates that could be an accidental drowning. However, for that reason, you can expect investigators, because of this outside pressure, to take even longer than they normally would because they know the world is watching.
Danny Savalos, thank you so much. We've got much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, speaking out, a man nearly sucked out of a plane window mid-flight, now sharing his story for the first time, what he remembers most about what happened. Up first, though, after the break, a look at the mysterious death of a modeling scout linked to Jeffrey Epstein. We'll be right back. We are back with the investigation into the mysterious death of a modeling scout in Paris who officials believe worked with Jeffrey Epstein for years. He was found dead in his home on Monday. French authorities said while he had not been formally charged with any crimes, they were planning to interview him about his ties to Epstein. NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson has the details.
Modeling scout Daniel Siad found dead in his home outside Paris Monday night. Siad, who was under investigation in France, appears nearly 2,000 times in the DOJ's Jeffrey Epstein documents, connecting the late convicted sex offender with women overseas. One example, I had 2 girls from Sweden, a Slovakian, 2 French, referencing good work for scouting, and in multiple messages noting their ages. When Epstein asks, responding in one email, 26, but she looks 18. Epstein maintained a home in Paris, visiting often. His correspondence about women with Siad coming after Epstein's controversial 2008 sweetheart plea deal on solicitation charges. Siad, before his death, denying wrongdoing, saying he never knew about Epstein's abuses.
He was such a powerful person, and how can I not trust him?
A lawyer for several Epstein survivors who say they were connected to him via Siad tells NBC News her clients are shocked and feel disillusioned, calling it regrettable Siad died before he could be interviewed by investigators. Siad was never charged or arrested in the French trafficking inquiry, which was opened after the U.S. Justice Department's document release, years after the arrest of modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, the Epstein associate who died by suicide behind bars in 2022, awaiting trial on rape and sex trafficking charges. Siad's lawyer tells NBC News Siad always proclaimed his innocence, wanting to see the truth come to light. Siad's lawyer suggests it's possible he died from a heart attack, but there's been no official determination on the cause of death. French prosecutors say there will be an autopsy. Back to you.
All right, Hallie Jackson, thank you. Well, for the first time, we are hearing from a passenger who was recently partially sucked out of a plane window mid-flight over Europe. He and his wife said fellow passengers pulled him back in and helped save his life in those frantic, terrifying moments. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the details.
These are the images, the blown-out window and the dangling oxygen masks that still haunt Ljubisa Karevich, the man who was violently sucked out of a plane up to his chest when a window blew out on a flight from Greece to Germany. Karevich tells the Guardian newspaper, "It's the noise before the chaos, the noise that is always there when I close my eyes to sleep." With his head and shoulders hanging out of the plane, his wife and fellow passengers pulled him back inside. His upper body was severely disfigured, his arm was badly injured, and there was blood everywhere, she says. The plane's right side engine appears to have ripped apart in flight, possibly sending shrapnel into the window. Once back inside, one passenger blocked the window with a suitcase, and Karevich, his wife says, passed out 3 times. "I thought I was losing him. His heart was beating so violently." But she says flight attendants only came to help after the pilots had made an emergency landing in Greece. Ryanair told The Guardian as soon as the aircraft descended to a safe altitude, our cabin crew attended to and assisted Mr. Karevich. Now at home, the 61-year-old father of 2 says he doesn't remember much and his head and neck still hurt, but he's alive. The U.S. NTSB is leading the investigation and says it has not ruled out aircraft age or service issues as a potential cause. The family is demanding accountability. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. Well, coming up, a popular wellness trend is in the spotlight by regulators. When we come back, why the FDA is considering easing restrictions on peptides, despite little evidence that they work. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. The peptide wellness trend makes a lot of promises, and this week some of those promises are going under the microscope. An FDA advisory panel is set to meet today to consider easing restrictions on a batch of 7 unregulated peptides. These drugs are all over social media, with influencers touting their alleged health benefits like better skin, better sleep, even a longer life. But several FDA scientists said there's little, if any, reputable evidence to prove that these peptides actually work in humans. And the studies that do exist are too small, too short, or they were poorly designed. We have NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards joining us now with more on this. Erica, good morning. So we're going to get to what this FDA panel is looking into in just a moment. But first, just like what exactly is a peptide?
Hey, Savannah, you know, that's a great place to start because you hear names on social media like BPC 157 and TB 500. They sound like Star Wars characters, right? Peptides are the building blocks of proteins, kind of like small groups of Legos that eventually turn into something. In this case, peptides tell your body to do something like repair an injury or release a hormone. Savannah?
Some peptides we know do work, and they're things that our viewers might not even realize is a peptide. I didn't. Insulin, GLP-1s, those are peptides. But then there's these 7 specific peptides that are going under review that we're talking about. What are these ones, and why is it that it seems like we know some work and we're not sure about others?
Yeah, so the peptides under review today and tomorrow, which, by the way, people already are taking here in the U.S., are not regulated. Compounding pharmacies in the U.S. are not allowed to manufacture them because these specific peptides are designated as unsafe. They're sold to the public only through a loophole because they're marked for research only. But experts say, as you said, Savannah, there's not enough evidence that these peptides actually work in humans or are safe. Savannah?
So our bodies apparently don't naturally make these peptides. They're made in a lab. So like part of this, right, is that a panel is deciding if specific pharmacies, these compounding pharmacies, are allowed to produce them, and if maybe that could make them safer in some way. How is that panel going to make that decision, though, if we're not even sure how they impact humans or if they're doing anything good?
Great question. I mean, this could be a meeting where experts really clash over the evidence or perhaps lack of evidence. Some panel members are independent physicians. Others are doctors who are already touting these peptides, and are already prescribing it. Remember, this committee only makes recommendations. It will ultimately be up to the FDA and likely Health Secretary Kennedy to make any final decisions. Savannah?
What happens if the FDA does decide to ease restrictions on these peptides?
One of the main arguments here is that people advocating for this change is that right now, who knows where these peptides are coming from? They could be from facilities, perhaps overseas, possibly, contaminated without the right dosage. Easing restrictions would mean that compounding pharmacies here in the U.S., those regulated compounding pharmacies, could actually manufacture these peptides.
So, Erica, what we've mentioned that there's not a lot of studies that have been big enough or strong enough or designed properly. As we've been talking about, and I think let's address the elephant in the room. This is all over social media. Tons of people are already using these peptides, and they're saying that it has this myriad of benefits. They're obviously, whatever it is that they're seeing in themselves, they think that it is working. So how does that impact something like an FDA panel? Like the fact that it's already being used widely, whether some people are kind of doing it under the table or not, while they're unregulated. What does that mean? Like if so many people are using it, then what's the purpose of the FDA panel if you can get it anyway?
Well, one of the biggest concerns here is the potential for side effects, and that's what really doctors say that they need more research on. Even if a peptide does work to, grow healthy hair or really enhance your thinking ability, what might it also be doing to your liver, to your heart? Maybe it could be interacting with other medications. Those are all questions yet to be answered. Savannah.
All right, Erica, thank you so much. Well, in other medical headlines, AI could soon help doctors treat certain neurological conditions like multiple sclerosis. A team of international researchers led by the University at Buffalo came up with a way for the tech to help see parts of the brain that humans couldn't see before, even with an MRI scan. They say it could play a key role in understanding how MS progresses. Kelly Dudzik from our NBC affiliate in Buffalo explains how it works.
The paper, published in the journal Communications Medicine, showed that artificial intelligence can be used to see lesions that are too hard for humans to see just using an MRI scan.
When you're a clinician, for example, or a radiologist reading these scans, and you're looking for these flare-ups, and you don't see them, but you see people continuing to worsen. And a big part of that story seems to be these kind of shadowy, kind of cortical lesions, we call them.
And AI was able to see the cortical lesions commonly associated with multiple sclerosis in the brain's gray matter. Dr. Michael Dwyer, Associate Professor of Neurology and Biomedical Informatics at the UB Jacobs School, says this is especially important because MS is the #1 debilitating neurological illness impacting young adults in the country, and this could help when people are experiencing flares.
There's this problem of, is this person responding well to this therapy? Is it working for them? And because we no longer see those big flare-ups as often, what we're wondering is, over the long term, are you going to have this decline? And so now, finally, we potentially have an AI tool that is letting us look at an individual person's brain and say, yes, you do see that. You do see something for this person, or you don't, and pick that up early.
This kind of treatment is not happening just yet, but researchers will be using data from big clinical trials to see if certain therapies worked.
But now, because of AI, we can go back and reuse this huge wealth of data and say, does this therapy work? Does this therapy work for this type of person?
Our thanks to Kelly Dudzik for that report. Coming up, artificial intelligence, more news here, but this time posing a real threat, an AI-powered security breach, raising new concerns about the technology, what we know about what happened, and why critics are calling for more safeguards. Next on Morning News Now. We are back now with a security breach that's turning some of the biggest fears about artificial intelligence into reality. So here's what happened. 2 of OpenAI's most advanced AI models were being tested when they went rogue. They figured out how to breach security controls and access the internet. Then they targeted an AI startup called Hugging Face, hacking it to find the answers they needed for their test. We're breaking this down with Sinead Bavell. She is a futurist and the founder of Way. Sinead, good morning. It's always wonderful to have you with us. And holy moly, is this a talker. Okay, so, it sounds like something out of a movie, the exact scenario people have been concerned about when it comes to AI. First, let's just walk through what happened here. What did the agents actually manage to do? And then how did OpenAI manage to stop them?
Yeah, this is truly an unprecedented day in cybersecurity. So OpenAI was running a cybersecurity evaluation in a sandbox. So this is a virtual environment to run these types of tests. Nothing unusual there. They would have been told to conduct certain cyber operations within this virtual environment. Where things started to go awry, the models themselves discovered that there was what's called a 0-day, something that can be exploited in the sandbox environment. They escaped this environment and they moved in, through OpenAI's internal systems, and they reached the public internet because they inferred that Hugging Face, which is kind of like a marketplace for AI models, they might contain the answers to the cybersecurity exam that the models were taking. So they compromised parts of Hugging Face's infrastructure. They executed more than 17,000 autonomous actions, and eventually Hugging Face, their systems were flagged that they were being breached. So that's essentially what happened. The models were trying to cheat on an exam. I think it's important to preface, though, that they were instructed to conduct certain cyber operations, not to break out. It was supposed to be within the sandbox. So that part is quite unprecedented. And it's quite stunning.
Yeah,
this moment, to be honest.
If they can break out of the sandbox, can you make sort of the leap that, well, why wouldn't they? Like, if they have the ability to, just like a human, you don't want to stay in the box that you're being put in. Is that a fair jump to make? And how much of a concern is that?
Well, the models, the safety guardrails that would usually accompany a model from a company before it's deployed into the world for us to use it, those were removed intentionally so they could evaluate its true capabilities. It wasn't instructed to cheat, though. However, these AI models are trained on our data, right? A lot of data from the internet. And so there are a lot of strategies of we cheat, right, on exams. There's going to be a lot of that type of strategy in internet information. So that's kind of part of why they would know to cheat, but it wasn't necessarily programmed into them to go do that. But it does raise a lot of questions that even if you try to contain the model in a safety environment or a sandbox, that they're going to find exploits because they're optimized to achieve goals. So in this case, how can you achieve a goal? Well, you may as well cheat, because that is one of the options in order to succeed on that optimization function.
OpenAI, as I understand and as you were just explaining, so they had to use a Chinese model to try to contain this attack. Explain that and like how worrying that is.
So this is the irony here. So Hugging Face's security teams, when they detected that it was likely an agent going rogue on their environment, they tried to use standard commercial AI models, the ones that you and I would know here in American AI models, to investigate and try to block the attack. But the frontier AI models, the API guardrails, locked them out. OpenAI, Anthropic, they have guardrails to prevent us from using them in cyber attacks. So the models actually were triggered to block any sort of support there. I guess they couldn't differentiate, is this an offensive attack or actually defense? So in order to bypass and fully stop the attackers, Hugging Face had to deploy an open weight model, and it was a Chinese model, directly on their own infrastructure to analyze and to neutralize the incoming threat. So that's quite a stunning part of the story.
Sinead, do you think there's a lot more stuff that's kind of scary like this, pushing the boundaries, that's happening behind the scenes? I mean, this is an incident they decided to tell us about. Do you think there's more?
I imagine that there are more enormous red flags that would be cause for concern, and that's part of the problem. At this point in time, we are all reliant on essentially the AI companies grading their own homework. So that's why there are a lot of calls, both from regulators, from academia. We need independent evaluations from independent audit teams. It's no longer sufficient that AI companies can grade their own homework on the severity of their models.
How worried should regular people be about this?
Unfortunately, I would say that this is really, really concerning. We are lucky that Hugging Face was in the hospital or a publicly traded company. This is no longer, I would say, a dress rehearsal. This is kind of V1 for the new cyber environment. So it's time to mobilize accordingly.
Sinead Bovell, really interesting, terrifying, but interesting stuff. We got to be talking about it and informing everybody. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, La Big Mistake, an accidental post by the Miami Heat renewing speculation about LeBron James' next move. We'll break down all the drama behind the decision 2.0. Don't bounce. Morning News Now. We'll be right back.
This morning, there is growing speculation and suspicion about the future of NBA legend LeBron James. That's because on Tuesday, in a move that shook the sports world, the Miami Heat posted, then later deleted, a YouTube link to what appeared to be an introductory press conference to announce LeBron's return to the Heat.
Keep in mind, basketball fans have been waiting weeks to learn where LeBron will play next year. He is about to enter his 24th season in the league, which further extends a league record. But the longer his free agency saga takes, the more it's impacting moves around the league.
Let's bring in NBC News sports reporter Rohan Nadkarni for more on this. Rohan, good morning. First, just walk us through the reaction behind this. I mean, what's the Heat saying about what happened?
Yeah, as you can imagine, this caused quite a stir. I think everyone is so desperate for a breadcrumb, a clue, some kind of idea of where LeBron is leaning that people kind of took this to mean, oh my God, he's joining the Heat. The Heat immediately said this is a mistake. I think the Heat are living every journalist's fear right now, which is you prepare something in advance just in case and somebody accidentally hits the publish button. I think that's what happened to the Miami Heat here. They've deleted the video. They've said it was a mistake. So it doesn't appear to be a hint, at least for now.
So the first time LeBron went to Miami, he made this TV special now infamously called The Decision. This next decision, I guess, won't be as monumental, but what does LeBron's ultimate landing spot mean across the league?
Yeah, I mean, he still single-handedly has the ability to affect kind of the title race in the NBA next year, depending on where he goes. Even as he approaches his 24th season, as you mentioned, he's over 40 years old. He's still a top 20 player in this league. We saw him last year single-handedly lead the Lakers to a playoff series win. So he's definitely still someone that can affect the championship race depending on which team he signs with.
No doubt whatsoever. I also feel like the Heat were maybe just trying to will it to happen. They're just like, come on, can we maybe make that happen?
Yeah, they wanted him to see how excited people
Right,
got.
and then he would make that decision. So at this point, we know the entire league is waiting to hear where he's going to sign next year. The official league schedule still hasn't been released, and Commissioner Adam Silver did recently say LeBron's decision is playing a role in that. Plus, all these teams, they got to figure out how to balance the books. So, I mean, just how surprising is it that so much is on hold waiting for this one person?
Frankly, it's not surprising at all. You know, I'm sure, you know, there are some colleagues at NBC that want to know where LeBron James is going to go. They got to figure out what national TV games teams are going to get. They want to know who's playing on Christmas. You can't have LeBron James not playing on Christmas. So he's still the most popular athlete in the NBA by far. I mean, he's one of the most popular athletes in the world. There are so many business decisions that happen downstream of where LeBron James decides to play that as crazy as it is, he still has that motion as an individual. It's not that surprising that so many things would be on hold until he figures out where he wants to play.
So Miami may actually make sense as a destination. They just traded for former MVP and NBA champion Giannis Antetokounmpo. Based on where LeBron is in his career, where do you think he'll end up?
So I will say I'm a little biased as someone who grew up in South Florida. I agree the Miami Heat are a great option. I really think, though, this is going to come down to three teams. I think it's going to be the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Philadelphia 76ers are being thrown out there as well as an option. It's hard to say which team right now. You know, I think some people believe he's in a holding pattern to see if one of these teams out there can acquire one of his old teammates. I do think something I expect is for LeBron James to go east. He's been in the Western Conference for the last 8 years. It's generally been the harder conference. If he wants to win another championship, I think it's not going to be easy. I think he'll have a slightly better chance of doing it on an Eastern Conference team than a Western Conference team, which is why his final list has kind of been narrowed down to what it's been narrowed down to.
All right, Rohan, good to have you with us as the speculation builds. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning and happy Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer right now on Morning News Now. Gulf Coast crusher, Tropical Storm Bertha, churning up wild waves, dangerous flooding, and whipping winds to millions down south. Angie is standing by with the system's latest track and what folks can expect if they're in its path of destruction. The cost of war. Negotiations with Iran at a stalemate this morning as the White House ramps up military strikes for another consecutive night. Hours before, President Trump attending the dignified transfer of the remains of 4 American service members killed in the conflict in the last week. The stark picture of reality painted on U.S. shores. Overseas, Tehran-backed Houthi forces say they've attacked a pair of Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea. It's all having a dire impact on wallets here at home. AAA saying the national average for a gallon of gas ticking past $4 with no tangible relief in sight. Another big drawback, rising mortgage rates. But what does the war have to do with Americans looking for that next home? We'll take a closer look in a moment. And later in the hour, it is the great workplace debate heating back up with those sky-high temps lately. Are shorts really a good fit for the office or more of a fashion faux pas? The question, could I possibly be wearing shorts right now while anchoring this show?
I was going to say, what do you think? But
the answer later in the hour. All right. Let's begin this morning with Tropical Storm Bertha, which is making life miserable for millions along the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, that's right. The storm made landfall east of New Orleans, packing drenching rain and winds up to 45 miles per hour. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent George Solis, who is following the storm from New Orleans and joins us now with the very latest. George, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. As you can see, things much calmer now after Tropical Storm Bertha turned to shore yesterday, but it still packed a punch here in the New Orleans area. We still saw some wind, some rain, and some flooding, but this morning, the storm continues to impact the Gulf Coast.
This morning, Bertha making its presence felt. The second named storm of the season, pushing west along the Gulf Coast, bringing wind, rain, and rising water to multiple states, along with wild waves. An oil rig off the Texas coast capturing this glimpse of Bertha's power. Storm surge trapping vehicles in sand on Alabama's Dauphin Island and flooding nearby streets, too. In Biloxi, Mississippi, beachside businesses moving out of harm's way, with powerful winds taking down a Waffle House sign near Edgewater, Florida, and bringing bands of rain across southeast Louisiana. In Venice, Louisiana, near the mouth of the Mississippi River, we met fisherman Chris Glass, who was not taking any chances.
We had flashbacks of Katrina or Ida. That was rough.
So you just better to be safe than sorry?
Absolutely.
Farther north, communities reeling from days of relentless rain, with floods overcoming bridges and roads in Tennessee. In West Virginia, these dramatic aerials showed the devastation left behind by severe flooding. Dramatic home camera footage showing a man quickly pulling a child to safety. At least 100 rescues have been carried out in the state in recent days, and the governor says some people are currently missing.
We don't have an exact number, but we are concerned about fatalities.
This morning, Bertha is moving west across the region, providing a pre-season warm-up for the hurricane season to come.
And I have to tell you, a lot of residents here, of course, grateful that Bertha was not more severe. Bertha itself continues to move west. It's expected to make a second landfall near Galveston, Texas, as a weak tropical storm. Joe and Savannah.
All right, George, thank you.
Let's get a closer look at what to expect from Tropical Storm Bertha with your morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman's here with that for us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. As George said, second named storm of the system, still churning just to the south, basically, of Texas, and expected to make that secondary landfall as the day goes on. Here's the latest details from the top of the hour. We've got 45-mile-per-hour wind, so hanging on to that tropical storm strength, but doesn't look like all that healthy of a storm because remember, it's pretty lopsided. All of that heavy rain is still out over the Gulf waters. It is moving west at 13 miles per hour. That takes it into Texas here as the day goes on. And we've got, of course, those tropical alerts up, specifically tropical storm warnings stretching from Louisiana all the way into portions of Texas along the coast. Cameron, Galveston, all included in that as we gear up for some additional rainfall, although it'll be minimal for most, as well as those gusty winds through the day today. There's the track, again, just south of Galveston or somewhere in that cone here. As we get into the later portions of today, it'll probably be late afternoon to maybe say early evening. And then it really weakens as it moves across southern Texas. Now, it will still bring some additional rainfall even as it weakens. But again, the system already looking fairly unhealthy. So we'll likely see that kind of development as the next 2 days goes on. In the meantime, through tonight, 20, 30, maybe 40-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts. Galveston clocking in likely into those mid-40s when it comes to your wind gusts as the afternoon and evening go on as that system gets closer. And then notice all the heavy rain confined to southern Texas, Corpus Christi. That's where you'll see anywhere from 2 to 3 inches, maybe some isolated amounts higher than that. But my bigger concern for heavy rainfall and flooding is actually across the mid-Atlantic, where we have been active for about a day or so with these kind of showers just hanging around, already saturated grounds. I feel like a broken record with this one, but this is an area that we are concerned about flooding through the day yet again. Excuse me. Notice the coastal areas all the way back to Chattanooga are where those flood watches and even flash flood warnings are in effect. Raleigh, one of those locations that has a flash flood warning this morning. Again, we've got impressive rainfall rates associated with these showers that we could see today, and they just hang around on this pesky stationary front as the day goes on, and they're slow-moving storms too. So really kind of a recipe for us to see some flooding. We saw it yesterday. We'll likely see it again today. And even as we get into tomorrow, this stationary front still draped across parts of the southeast and still kind of whipping up a little bit of this rain. It'll be more scattered across those areas that are seeing it today, but still we'll see some of that rain across the southeast. And this, of course, good news for the areas that have that ongoing drought. By the time this is all said and done, maybe 3 inches in the more widespread areas, but localized spots up to 4, even 5 inches, especially, guys, across parts of North Carolina closer to the coast.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Well, in Iran, the U.S. launched its 12th straight night of strikes as the war in the Middle East showed no signs of slowing down. The White House says the latest round of strikes were aimed at weakening Iran's ability to threaten ships in the Strait of Hormuz. It comes after President Trump attended the dignified transfer of remains of 4 U.S. service members killed in action earlier this week. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake joins us with the latest. Hi, Garrett. Good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Those strikes continuing overnight for the 12th straight day, showing no signs of letting up. But yesterday, the spotlight was really on the human cost of this war in a way that it seldom is, with the president attending that dignified transfer of the remains of 4 soldiers killed in this conflict, joined by the parents welcoming home their sons and daughters. The highest cost of the Iran war on stark display at Dover Air Base. President Trump participating in the dignified transfer of the remains of 4 American service members killed in the conflict in the last week.
It's one of the hardest things to do as a president, but has to be done.
Later, at a campaign-style rally outside Atlanta, the president acknowledging the parents of Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, who flew from Dover home to Georgia aboard Air Force One.
To Sherry and Stephen and David, we will carry Tyler's memory in our hearts forever.
With negotiations to end the war stalled, the president escalating military strikes against the Iranian regime, which continued for a 12th straight night. He's also threatening Iran's infrastructure, vowing to destroy the country's bridges and power plants each time Iran attacks a ship in the Strait of Hormuz.
They're not ready to make a deal.
Iran's foreign minister on social media vowing an eye for an eye, while threatening U.S. allies in the region. On Capitol Hill, the Trump administration has been pushing for more money for the war. And last night, House Republicans passing a bill that provides over $1 trillion in annual defense spending, and advanced a measure that would provide more funding for the Iran war. But both face uphill partisan battles in the Senate. And yesterday, the human cost in the spotlight. 18 service members confirmed killed and the number of injured in dispute, which led to this fiery exchange with UN Ambassador Mike Waltz.
You don't even know how many U.S. troops were wounded in this Iran war. Shame on you for not even know basic facts. You are the U.S. ambassador, and you don't even know how many U.S. troops were wounded in the Iran war. You got that wrong. You should be shameful. You don't know basic.
With no diplomatic breakthrough in sight that could potentially end this war, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked overnight about the prospect of replacing the United States-Iran negotiating team. Rubio's answer suggests that's unlikely. He told reporters that talks with Iran remain a combined effort, in his words, and that America's lead negotiator ultimately is President Trump, who sets the policy.
All right, Garrett, thank you.
A new front is threatening to open up in the war with Iran. Yemen's Houthis, those are allies of Iran, say they attacked 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea. They say it's because Saudi Arabia violated a naval blockade it has imposed on the kingdom. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has more on this from Jerusalem. Richard, good morning.
For the last 5 months, we've been talking about the Strait of Hormuz and how the U.S.-Iran war has been disrupting maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical for the flow of oil and gas. And right now, the strait is effectively closed as this war between the U.S. and Iran is escalating at the moment. But overnight, a new front opened up. According to a Yemeni militia group, they carried out 2 attacks on Saudi vessels. The attacks were condemned by Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is to the west of the Strait of Hormuz, and it is responsible for the transport of a full 12% of all global trade. So this second front, which opened overnight, the Houthis said that they carried out this attack. The Houthis are backed by Iran in the spirit of an eye for an eye, has the possibility to disrupt not just the flow of oil and gas, but all global trade.
All right, Richard, thank you so much.
All right, now we want to look at what impact the reignited war with Iran is having on your wallet.
This morning, we're going to dig into the numbers to see just how much the price for gas, for groceries, and other daily household items have increased since the conflict started.
Here to help us with that is NBC News chief business correspondent Christine Roman. She's going to walk us through these numbers. Christine, good morning.
Good morning.
So first, let's just start with how much more American families are paying for things since this war.
I mean, you look at gas, you look at groceries, you look at energy costs, you look at even mortgage rates. All of those things have been rising here. So looking at higher gas prices, that's probably adding about $360 to the family budget. This is according to Mark Zandi over at Moody's, and that's from the beginning of the war until about July 20th. So just a couple of days ago. Groceries, likely because diesel prices are high. hired. You move these goods around the country with diesel. Interest rates have risen. As you've got inflation fears rising, interest rates have risen. Mortgage rates now 6.75 for a 30-year fixed. That's adding credit cost to the American family. There's the cost of the military as well. So all of these things taken together, adding about $1,200. He says conservatively $1,200 to the family budget since the beginning or since the end of February.
Let's dig deeper into what was at the top of that list, because I think that's the thing people notice most, and that is gas.
Yeah.
It started to drop, but now it's back up. Talk about where things are, and do we have an idea of where things are going, or is it just totally contingent on what happens with the war?
So all of that progress has been erased, and you're now back to the end of May, early June levels for gas prices. Overnight gas rose again, so still now you're above $4 a gallon. Today's number is $4.06. You can see on February 28th, the night before the war began, it was at $2.98. And, you know, this is interesting because gas prices had been the one thing that didn't cost more post-COVID. All of those other affordability concerns Americans had, gas was the bright spot, but not really anymore. You asked about where we're going. Hard to tell. Patrick DeHaan over at Gas Buddy said hard to tell, but he points out a couple of things. Two hot wars, as they say, with Iran and with Russia and Ukraine. Those are both energy producers. And you've got the hurricane season coming up. So there's a lot of uncertainty. He said it's really hard to figure out or to even forecast what will happen by Labor Day. But this is the peak driving season right now, and these are much higher costs than last year for drivers.
Christine, why and how is the war impacting mortgage rates?
So it's a little bit complicated, but you've got interest rates rising here because of the inflation concern, right? And so that means as the government issues bonds, it has to issue bonds with higher mortgage rates, or higher interest rates rather, to attract the same lenders. So you've got a 30-year fixed rate mortgage now at 6.77%. Anybody out there looking to refinance or looking to buy a home knows that that number is the highest in a year. And we had some progress on mortgage rates. Remember the spring mortgage rates when I had said, we got 5.99. Right. Everyone was so excited. That has been reversed, and that is because of the war with Iran.
All right, Christine Romans, thank you.
Now to an officer-involved shooting in Madison, Wisconsin. Authorities say a man with a knife was shot and killed by a veteran deputy during a struggle. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in the city where protesters took to the streets in reaction. Shaq, what more can you tell us?
Good morning. And you see the intersection where that shooting took place is now blocked off with a makeshift vigil after we saw throughout the night demonstrations throughout the Madison area. All four officers who were involved, including the one who fired those fatal shots, have now been placed on administrative leave, which is standard procedure as an investigation is underway. And we must warn you, the video that you are about to see is disturbing to watch.
This morning, an investigation is underway.
Shots fired incident, and PD has one injured.
After a police officer in Madison, Wisconsin, fatally shot a man who investigators say pulled a knife during a scuffle with deputies.
An officer was injured by this while attempting to arrest him.
Multiple bystander videos capturing different angles of the shooting. Police say it took place after a man fled from officers who were responding to a report of an individual stealing bicycles and checking car doors. As a patrol SUV pulls up, the unidentified man is taken to the ground before 3 shots are heard and the man stops moving. Police say a taser was initially deployed by the officers, but it was ineffective. 2 officers were taken to the hospital, including one who was injured by the knife and fired his weapon. The department releasing this photo of the blade they say injured the officer.
When a knife is produced during officers' apprehension arrests, the overall situation is clearly elevated.
Madison's police chief says none of the officers were wearing body cameras, which are not widely used in the city, and implored the public not to read into bystander videos.
It is not a full overview of everything that was visible from different angles, certainly visible from the officers.
Following the deadly shooting, upset residents taking to the streets demanding answers, as the governor called for transparency and accountability in any investigation.
All the witness interviews, all the videotapes, all the forensic evidence, the doctors, the statements, it's all going to be looked at by an independent authority, and then they're going to make a determination. Was this a justified use of force?
And guys, neither the man who was killed nor the officer who fired those fatal shots have at this point been publicly identified by authorities. We know this investigation is going to be led by the State Department of Justice. We know as part of that process, there will be a prosecuting attorney involved, as you have many members of the community here demanding answers. Guys?
Right. Shaq, thank you so much.
Well, as use of AI in our everyday lives keeps growing, infrastructure is having to rapidly expand to support that demand. And that means data centers are popping up all over the country. You might have one in your neighborhood. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with more on how one community is dealing with that expansion. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. We're talking about Loudoun County, Virginia. It's often been called Data Center Alley. The once suburban community, roughly an hour from Washington, D.C., started investing in data centers more than 20 years ago. But its growth has tripled in the last decade, leading to some unintended consequences that are similar to growing concerns all over the country.
We are watching.
The fight over the future of data centers is heating up. More than 3,000 data centers like these have been built across the country, each facility requiring a great deal of land, power, and water.
It ain't nothing but a poison.
Now, today, the White House prepared to unveil a plan to curb the skyrocketing power costs associated with the technology's rapid growth. The explosion in data centers here in Loudoun County, Virginia, is like no place in the country, with 200 here already and plans to build at least 100 more in the near future.
It is the first thing we see every morning.
Yeah, and it wasn't like this when you bought this.
No, when we moved in, it was mostly trees. Yeah.
Hari Dewey is the mother of twin 9-year-olds. She wasn't prepared for this massive, sometimes loud data center outside her front door.
I am not sure why they chose a very random place in the middle of a residential area to build this monstrosity of a building.
Hari told us the constant noise from the data center keeps her kids up at night. She's worried about the impact on the value of her home.
Who is going to want to come and buy a home, and this is the first thing we see?
She is not alone. As data centers continue to pop up across the country, so too does the backlash.
These data centers have got to go.
Prince George's County in Maryland voted this month on a 2-year moratorium on data center construction. In Utah, residents pushed back so hard against a proposal from Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary that he cut the project in half. O'Leary telling NBC News he had no choice given the public's opposition. But the growth is directly tied to consumer demand for artificial intelligence. OpenAI's Sam Altman believes there is room to satisfy the demand without interrupting daily life.
We have a huge country, and there's a lot of places we can put data centers and build enough electricity that I think everybody can be happy.
Buddy Reiser oversees data center development in Loudoun County. He points to the industry leading to thousands of construction jobs and a tax benefit of close to $7,000 per household.
We've added over 1,000 acres of parks and recreation, transportation, affordable housing.
Hari admits she is using AI technology a lot, and she understands the need for data centers. What she's asking for is better planning.
Obviously, technology moves at, light speed, and it's ever changing, but this needs to be more thought out.
Vantage Data Centers, which operates the site near Dewey's home, said that in part it is committed to being a responsible long-term neighbor and that it is in full compliance with applicable local noise ordinances, but also pledged to work to address the concerns of local residents. Savannah and Joe.
All right, a concern a lot of people across this country are having in their community. Ryan, thank you. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why wildlife experts say beachgoers are seeing a lot more sharks off of America's coastlines this summer.
First, though, after the break, a modeling scout with extensive ties to Jeffrey Epstein found dead in Paris. The disturbing allegations that he was facing and the investigation now underway. Our Kelly O'Donnell has the latest next.
We're back now with details about an investigation French police are conducting into the death of a modeling scout in Paris. Authorities say the man had deep ties to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. At least 5 women have accused the man of rape and human trafficking, allegations he had previously denied. For more, let's bring in NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. She has more. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. The long and sordid saga surrounding Jeffrey Epstein now includes this so far unexplained death. Daniel Siad, who had been under investigation in France, his death is a mystery near Paris that may further complicate efforts to investigate the accounts of survivors who say they've been waiting for some measure of justice.
This morning, a new investigation is underway to determine what caused the death of a modeling agent named Daniel Siad, a man with long ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Ties so extensive that Siad's name appeared nearly 2,000 times in the trove of Epstein documents released by the Department of Justice. In one message to Epstein, Siad wrote, "I had 2 girls from Sweden, a Slovakian, 2 French." Epstein asked about age. Siad responded, 26, but she looked 18. In a separate email, Siad wrote about a 20-year-old woman, that she looks younger. In a TV interview earlier this year, Siad attempting to distance himself from the late sex offender.
He was such a powerful person, and how can I not trust him?
French officials say they were actively investigating Siad, including tapping his phone. The Paris prosecutor's office says 24 women have come forward or been identified to report incidents where they were victims or witnessed activity involving Siad and other suspects. One of his accusers, former Swedish model Ebba Carlsson, filed a formal complaint against Siad earlier this year, alleging he raped her in 1990 when she was 20 years old.
We still haven't had any justice served.
A lawyer representing a number of Epstein survivors who say it was Daniel Siad who linked them to Epstein are shocked and find it regrettable that Siad's death closes a door in the investigation before officials were able to interview him. Siad's body was discovered at his home near Paris Monday. His lawyer said that he always proclaimed his innocence, also noting that he was never prosecuted.
French authorities are waiting on the results of that autopsy report. Siad's lawyer said that if the examination finds the cause of death was natural, he then suggests the death may have been hastened by the, quote, stigma cast upon him. Savannah?
All right, Kelly, thank you.
We are following developing news out of central Mexico, where a mayor was shot and killed during a town hall meeting.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Raf, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, authorities in Mexico say the mayor of a small town in an area where drug cartels are active was shot dead inside of the local town hall. According to local media, the mayor of Temoac, who is allied with Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum, survived an armed attack back in January. Almost 100 mayors have been murdered in Mexico in the past 20 years, 3 of them since the beginning of this year. Let's go down to Ukraine, where on Wednesday, President Zelensky fired the army's commander-in-chief, General Alexander Syrsky, days after he fired Mikhailo Fedorov, the defense minister. The major government reshuffle comes after the 6-year-old Syrsky and the 43-year-old Fedorov openly clashed, leading to political turmoil. The firing of the young defense minister sparked street protests among Ukrainians who view him as a key military modernizer. And finally, the city of Dunedin in southern New Zealand, excitement is growing ahead of the first total solar eclipse there in more than 850 years. On July 22nd, 2028, the city will plunge into darkness at around 4 p.m. for about 3 minutes. And even though we are still 2 years away, hotel rooms are already selling solar eclipse packages that include complimentary eclipse glasses. But you better book fast, guys, if you don't want to eclipse your chances of seeing this, because those hotel rooms are selling out fast.
You really have to plan for July of 2028 right now, between the LA Olympics, where everything is selling out, and now the eclipse.
So true.
Got to really plan ahead. We'll bring in Katie Nastro to help us.
An eclipse, though, worth it to see. I mean,
they are
what
like
an event.
Experience.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Raph. Appreciate it. Coming up, there is something in the water this summer, and wildlife experts argue we should start to get used to it.
When Morning News Now returns, why shark sightings are actually surging this year, and what it could end up telling us about their relationship with, well, us. That's up next. We'll be right back.
Back now, the closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a new report looking into how many people are leaving the Trump administration. NBC News reporter Gary Grumbrack joins us now with more on that. Gary, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Here's what's happening in politics now. New data out this week shows the Trump administration is seeing a spike in the departures of high-level officials, eclipsing the numbers seen at this point during Trump's first term. More than 24 Senate-confirmed officials have left their positions over the past 18 months, according to the nonprofit Partnership for Public Service. In Trump's first term, only 11 Senate-confirmed officials left their roles. Now, some of the 27 individuals were pushed out of their jobs, while others moved to other government roles or left the government altogether. The United States Secret Service on Wednesday said they have opened up more than 10,000 investigations into threats against people they protect this year alone. That's a 40% increase from this same period last year. Calling the number, quote, off the charts, the Secret Service Director Sean Curran said they're deploying more resources to ensure wherever the president goes, he is safe. Now, over the past 3 years, Trump has faced 3 assassination attempts and is a continued target of foreign adversaries like Iran. And a Democratic candidate for governor in Wisconsin is in hot water this morning after exclusive reporting from NBC News revealed old offensive social media posts about women and race and derogatory LGBT references. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley denies posting the content on accounts that belong to him, telling NBC in a statement he would never say those things and that he condemns the language. Crowley is considered one of the more ideologically moderate candidates running in the crowded gubernatorial primary. The election is set for August 11th. That's what's happening in politics now. Back to you.
All right, Gary, thank you. It is the time of year when a lot of people are concerned about shark attacks. And in California, experts are expecting this summer to be an especially, well, sharky one. Now, new research is revealing more about how great whites interact with people in the ocean and what human actions may be piquing their interest. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in Los Angeles with more on this and what you should know before you head to the beach. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Well, experts with Cal State University Long Beach's Shark Lab say this summer is expected to be one of the most active shark seasons on record. They took us to one nearby shark hotspot. We're just feet away from these massive ocean predators. We saw young kids enjoying that very same beach. But researchers tell us it's more common than we think and not something we need to be so scared of. Just off the Southern California coast, a bird's eye view reveals this.
It's right in front of us, about 30 feet up ahead. There's a dark shadow there. See it?
All around us, juvenile great white sharks.
There she is.
Chris Lowe and his team at Cal State University Long Beach's Shark Lab took us to this public beach just north of Los Angeles, a place researchers call a shark nursery.
It has the most juvenile white sharks of anywhere in the world.
Here, these young predators are sharing the waters.
So far, we've seen about half a dozen sharks swimming all around this area, and you can just see how close we are to this beach. There's a summer camp going on right now.
It's an alarming sight to some, but for Lowe, encounters like these are an ordinary occurrence. And this summer, experts are seeing even more.
It's going to be a sharky summer, and this is what we keep telling the public.
This shark surge driven by an El Nino weather pattern warming up ocean waters and expected to increase the number of shark sightings across California by more than 100% this year. Still, Lowe says shark attacks are not expected to rise.
What we are trying to explain is why do we have so many encounters and no bites?
In fact, their research shows humans and sharks are swimming together 97% of the time and still rarely attack. As you can see in this close encounter from earlier this week, as a 10-foot shark swims next to a group of children.
Why do you think we as the public think that sharks are out to kind of attack us, see us as prey?
Well, you know, that started with Jaws.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Sharks have become such a critical part of our summer culture, like baseball, apple pie, 4th of July, and sharks. It's deep.
It's part of the reason researchers are trying to understand the great whites' senses.
So I'm doing the swimming playback one more time.
For the past 2 years, the Shark Lab has been studying how the animals hear and what they're drawn to. Their initial findings reveal the apex predator is most likely to swim toward the splashing sounds of humans swimming, as opposed to the sound of surfers or kayakers. But when they get close, they tend to lose interest.
We've actually seen sharks swim up behind swimmers. get within maybe 3 feet of them and then actually just turn away. So it's almost like they didn't know what it was. They get close and they go, well, that's not anything I should be worried about.
If you're saying sharks don't see us as prey, why then do we see them attacking humans?
So we don't really know why sharks occasionally bite people unprovoked. They either think of us or mistake us as food. But the other possibility is they are defending themselves. What we do know is it's incredibly rare.
The team is working year-round to learn more about these mysterious swimmers.
Here we go. Here we go.
Using tools like this underwater microphone to keep track of sharks they've seen before.
So they'll be able to go back and see where it's traveled, where it's been.
Exactly. You just captured a data point for us.
Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And if they're lucky, they'll even get some new visitors.
All right, we got one. We're gonna see if we can tag this one. It's been pretty jittery.
Allowing researchers to track more sharks.
Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming.
And get valuable insight into their behavior.
We got one. Do you think some of them realize what you're doing?
They probably do. They've probably recognized this boat before. That's the thing that I think I've really learned the most, is that they're smarter than we give them credit for.
And a little friendlier, maybe.
Oh, they are. I think they're definitely misunderstood.
And so far, the Shark Lab has tagged about 380 sharks across Southern California. They even have buoys in the water, Joe, that can help them ping lifeguards on the beach to alert them if one of those sharks is nearby. As for advice on how to avoid shark encounters, Chris says be careful around dawn and dusk. That is when sharks are more active. And also take off any jewelry so that sharks won't accidentally mistake the flash of a bracelet or ring as a fish. Joe.
Good advice, helping us understand the misunderstood. Liz, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Welcome back. It's less than a week since Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey landed in theaters. It's already the most talked about movie of the year. It's also a critical and commercial hit. But its most high-profile critic, Elon Musk, is now stepping up his campaign against the movie after complaining about The Odyssey's casting choices, including a black actress, Lupita Nyong'o, and a transgender actor, Elliot Page. Well, yesterday he announced his own version of the ancient Greek story made with his own AI software. Musk wrote on X, "Before this year ends, Grok, imagine, will make a full-length movie of the Odyssey that is historically accurate and true to the art of Homer." Our friend, entertainment journalist Brian Balthazar joins us now to dig into this. Brian, we should start by saying The Odyssey is distributed by our sister company, Universal Pictures. We should also note this is a story that features mythical gods and monsters. There's a six-headed monster. I think there's a cyclops in there. So how exactly does Musk propose making this, quote, historically accurate version? I mean, is he really serious about this?
Well, that is the key word right there. I mean, last night I dreamt I had washboard abs and danced with unicorns. Can you do a historically accurate version of that? Like you said, this is not a census report. This is a mythological tale. Has a cyclops in there. So I think, in a kind of P.T. Barnum type way, he's trying to create a spectacle that will draw people into theaters or to wherever he's going to put this movie. I think what's important to note, though, is that while he probably can assemble something that's full length, there are still some hurdles. Continuity, actually making something that people care about and want to see. There is a reason that when studios cast an animated film, they use popular actors and actresses in that film because people care about the voices and they want to see those actors promote it. So it's much harder than what he says he's doing. But getting back to the core statement there, historically accurate, is the real problem in the statement.
Yeah. Also, they're good performers. Lupita Nyong'o does have an Oscar, so people want to see good performances from good performers. I mean, so much is being written and said about the movie. But away from that, walk us through just how it is performing. I mean, it feels like the haters aren't. I guess the question is, are the haters helping maybe drive some people into theaters, or what's going on here?
I think, it's grossed over 300 million worldwide. So that is not fueled simply by backlash and hate. That is about an incredibly well-told tale that people have been simply waiting to see for months and months and months. They had sold advanced seatings to showings of this film months ago, and they were sold out. So this is about Christopher Nolan's interpretation, and I think that's an important word too. Like, you know what? Elon Musk can give an interpretation of this film, but people are going to see Christopher Nolan's interpretation of this film, and it's proving to be wildly successful.
There's also a separate story here about just how we watch movies. It's shot in this 70mm IMAX format. Currently, only 25 theaters in the country can show it at its full resolution. There's only one of those here in New York. I guess the question is, could this popularity in this lead to more venues trying to upgrade their technology, or maybe is that a risky investment because you only get so many Christopher Nolan films?
Right. Well, that actually is already happening. There are over 300 IMAX films that are due to be installed. There's a backlog, and there's also over 160 upgrades. So not every, as you said, not every IMAX theater actually has that laser that makes it incredibly stunning to watch. But this is a trend. Certainly, this film is very encouraging to stakeholders in this technology and in these theaters, but this is happening. We're going to see more and more people going to theaters for the experience, for an epic experience, and it's reflected also. We see a lot of blockbusters and a lot of epic tales being told that are very IMAX friendly, but we're looking at over 300 contracts worldwide for IMAX screens right now.
I like those theaters that shake a little bit, Brian. Have you been?
Oh,
in
no.
those?
I don't need to be throttled. I can feel my stomach jiggle. I do not want to be throttled during the movie. I don't want my popcorn. I paid a lot of money for that popcorn. I do not want. Deadpool nearly killed me. Literally, I nearly.
Okay, all right. Quiet. Big IMAX for Brian.
Right.
Very good.
IMAX
Washboard
is my
abs.
speed.
We got it. All right. Brian Balthazar, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we continue to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, we're taking a special look at an important piece of history. Queen Mary II is the world's only remaining ocean liner. The British ship dropped anchor in New York Harbor earlier this month as part of the Sail 250 events. And Today Show anchor Jenna Bush Hager got on board for a closer look at her luxury and her legacy.
The Queen Mary II is a legend of the seas. Towering 236 feet tall and stretching more than 1,100 feet long. She's the largest transatlantic ocean liner ever built and the only one still in service. The Queen Mary II symbolizes the golden age of ocean travel, sailing her historic Southampton, England to New York City route. Her predecessors, the Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, and QE2, among the ships transporting both immigrants and vacationers since the late 1800s. Today, it's a bucket list voyage for travelers. Hi, Captain.
Good afternoon, Jenna.
Wow.
Welcome aboard Queen Mary II.
My tour guide is Cunard's Queen Mary II Captain, Asim Hashmi.
This is the central grand lobby of the ship.
Wow, and it really is kind of a throwback to the grandeur of that time,
Absolutely.
right? So what is the historical significance of ships like this as we celebrate our 250th birthday?
We've been transporting millions and millions from Europe, settling into North America. And in fact, around 20% of North American citizens can trace their ancestry back to a Cunard liner.
Decorating the walls of the ship, photos from the glamorous era of transatlantic crossings. Oh, Elizabeth Taylor.
I think she also had one of her honeymoons on board in the 50s.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Ginger Rogers, Bob Hope.
Bob Hope.
Captain Hashmi took me right to the heart of the ship.
Deck 12.
For an up-close look at the bridge. Wow, what a view.
Welcome to my office.
What a beautiful office.
And this is it, the steering wheel.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and people are quite surprised. It's such a small wheel, not like the old days, big spokes on it.
But this actually steers it?
Yep, but 95% of the time, the ship's on autopilot, controlled by a small joystick.
Wow. The Queen Mary II is home to one of the largest ballrooms at sea, the largest dance floor at sea, and my favorite, one of the largest libraries at sea. Oh my gosh, look at this.
Over 8,000 books, and every topic under the sun is covered in multiple languages as well. And we have many famous authors come on here who discreetly sign their book and leave it for other readers to discover.
I love that. But the most treasured signature of all lives inside the ship's guest book. Queen Elizabeth II, the ship's godmother, was the first to sign it. The book is kept under lock and key. But today, I'm getting a rare up-close look.
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II actually sat on this chair at this table
and
when
signed
she signed it the day the ship was named on 8th of January 2004. And if we come a bit ahead,
oh, yes.
You'll recognize these ones.
My grandpa. My grandpa first visited the Queen Mary II while she was docked at the Athens Olympics. In 2012, my grandparents took their first transatlantic voyage. Their suite is our next tour stop. This is where my grandparents stayed.
Yes.
Wow. So the views. It was on his bucket list for many, many years to take the Queen Mary over, and he really enjoyed his trip.
This was actually given by President Bush to Diane, our public relations
manager
at the time.
Wonderful time. We're grateful for your assistance. Oh, unforgettable memory. I love that. The greatest memory of all is made on the top deck. Wow! Where passengers gather to experience the ship's iconic arrival to New York City. The Statue of Liberty, beautiful.
3 o'clock in the morning when we come under the bridge there, the decks are packed with passengers here to see the iconic Statue of Liberty, just like they would have done all those years ago. Millions and millions would have traveled through the gateway there from everywhere and anywhere with a dime in their pocket, possibly, with nothing in their pocket. And then they lived the American dreams for many.
Dreams that began right here in New York Harbor, a symbol of hope for generations. Jenna Bush-Hager, NBC News.
For years, younger generations have dominated social media, but now Gen X creators are starting to steal the spotlight, turning dance videos into viral sensations. These creators are in their mid-40s to 60s and getting millions of views. Their throwback music, authentic personalities, and carefree moves are striking a chord with audiences of all ages. NBC News correspondent Marquise Francis has more.
For decades, social media has been dominated by younger generations. But lately, a different, more seasoned group has been taking over feeds, and they're doing it one dance at a time.
The old age home is gonna be lit. You know?
From New York City's Chill Tias to Philadelphia's Tim Talk Sherry, amassing millions of views, hundreds of thousands of followers. They're proving you're never too old to get down.
We're gonna keep it funky as long as we can.
Sonia Gonzalez and Tammy Kubelet, creative partners turned best friends, and in their words, women of a certain age. With goofy outfits and an endless supply of colorful sunglasses, they're New Yorkers first, and on social media, the Chill Tias. A couple years ago, they saw everyday people dancing and thought, why not us?
We saw people dancing in their pajamas, in their kitchen, and we're like, let's get down. You know what I mean?
The videos showcase the rhythms of the Bronx, neighbors becoming community, and the spontaneity of youth.
They've really captured the perfect storm for what works online.
Francesca Ramsey is a writer, producer, and an OG social media creator.
I think a lot of people are tired of seeing people try to sell them something or present this manufactured version of reality.
She says the Gen X duo appeal is also rooted in nostalgia.
The ability to watch some content that has a great song that you remember from your youth is a really nice escape from the current climate that we're in.
That same mix of nostalgia, joy, and authenticity is resonating near Philadelphia. Tim and Tali Sherry became accidental internet stars after a dance video from their son's wedding exploded online.
It just happened to spiral into this social media craziness for us.
They soon realized there were even more people their age who were looking for the same feeling.
Bringing them back to whatever, their high school or college days when they were, dancing away without a care in the world. I think those memories are really bringing a lot of joy as well.
Even I caught the bug.
What do you want people to feel after watching your content?
I want them to feel all warm and fuzzy.
I also want them to feel like they have permission to just be silly and free.
Marquise Francis, NBC News.
Coming up, you could call it a short sell that's got nothing to do with Wall Street. After the break, we are diving feet first into that age-old workplace debate. Do shorts deserve a coveted spot in our office wardrobes? Well, it turns out more people are starting to say yes. We're going to keep it casual. Next on Morning News Now. Finally this hour, a workplace debate for the ages. Should you wear shorts to the office? I have been wearing these all morning long, just hidden beneath the anchor desk. As summers get hotter, more people are saying yes to what I call the workplace mullet. Business on top, party below. But as you can imagine, there is plenty of pushback.
It's a couture controversy, bickering over britches.
Normalize business shorts.
And no one is short on opinions.
Don't wear shorts to work. It's not business casual.
With summers heating up, some companies are shedding their dress codes, letting workers show a little leg.
I want to free the knee.
The goal is to increase comfort and perhaps cut back on air conditioning to save energy, a trend that prompted the Gothamists to ask, is this the summer New Yorkers should all wear shorts to the office?
I wouldn't do it.
Yes, the longer the better, though.
Hard no. I'm not a fan.
Here on Today, we've also entered this Bermuda's Triangle.
Is it okay to wear shorts to work?
I think it depends on the material, right?
Yes.
Like if the shorts are kind of fancier shorts.
The New York Times even highlighting Tokyo's new policy that allows men to wear shorts. The debate there is centered on a hairy situation, what the Japanese media has dubbed leg hair harassment.
Your colleagues don't necessarily want to see your hairy legs.
Samuel Hine is senior men's style editor at New York Magazine. And while he doesn't believe in blanket pronouncements about what's okay to wear,
you are a style expert. What say you? In general, in almost every situation, I think I'm a no on shorts in the office. There are more considerations here about what to wear to the office than pure comfort. I think that dressing up is important.
A recent Bloomberg poll of clients in the business world shows only 45% find it appropriate to wear shorts at work. Critics call the looks unprofessional, with one saying, AI is taking all our humanity. All we have left is pants. And yet, at this year's Milan Fashion Week, Ralph Lauren and Tom Brown were among the many brands pairing shorts with dressier fare. Designer Rick Owens is selling these knee-length looks, marketed as work shorts.
Do not be afraid to wear shorts to the office.
Perhaps it was inevitable with the rise of casual Fridays, the popularity of athleisure, and the comfort of work from home. Still, the shin shaming is not going away.
Shorts are never appropriate for work.
A debate that's not ready to go out of style. If you are going to wear shorts at work, Samuel Hine says a tailored short that hits just above the knee is most appropriate. I don't know if this is tailored. Nothing shorter than that, or maybe even a longer, flowier short that reaches just below the knee. A lot of women are doing that.
Yeah,
looking
true.
online, there does seem to be universal agreement for a traditional office setting. No cargo shorts, no jorts.
I think cargo shorts, unless you are working and you wouldn't need the storage.
100% for that, yeah.
I think generally we could be done with those.
That's that. But for this, I think this is my new look, and I'll be doing it every day from here on out. So I hope you're ready for that.
Starting at the top of the show,
Starting
though,
at the top of the show,
yeah.
exactly. And you're not going to acknowledge it at all. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.